Hello, assalamu alaikum everyone. Sorry, that was very loud, it seems. So we're going to start with our program tonight. Is this too loud? Is this better? Yeah, that's fine. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight and supporting Dad in this Ramadan fundraising event. We're going to start our program tonight with Dr. Muhammad Huzaiz, who is a Syrian-American pediatrician who has been a member of Doctors Against Genocide for 3 years, and he's the head of his local chapter in Colorado. He has had the privilege of going to Gaza not once, but twice so far. His first mission was last year in January of 2025, during the General's Plan for the North. He managed to get across the Netzarim corridor and work under fire and famine to provide life-saving aid to the children of the North, as well as be present for the January ceasefire. Just a couple of weeks ago, he returned from his second mission to Gaza, when he had the chance to continue the important work he began last year, as well as see how pediatric health care in the Gaza Strip has changed since the start of the ceasefire on October 10th. During his time there, he provided further medical aid to the children of Gaza, and he had the opportunity to experience firsthand the important work that Doctors Against Genocide is doing on the ground. Thank you again, Dr. Huzaiz.
Thank you all so much for being here and for having me. All I say, it's a privilege to get to be here with this beautiful community, mashallah.
Well, tell us about yourself.
Okay. Cool. As I said, there's hematologic disease. I'm a pediatrician. I've lived in Colorado for the past 3 years. And when this genocide started, I was very heartbroken about what was happening. And found a beautiful outlet to channel a lot of that grief into productive action. That outlet being Doctors Against Genocide, the reason we're all here tonight. Speaking with Dr. Nicolai and Dr. Karama, I obtained permission to start our own branch of Doctors Against Genocide in Colorado to take local action on the ground. And so we work in conjunction with the Colorado Palestine Coalition, a group of groups, and we actively participate in protests and advocacy within the state of Colorado. This is actually us at the Colorado State Capitol. And then Doctors Against Genocide was actually present during our encampment at the University of Colorado where we covered the medical tents. And these are our students actually forming a ring to protect the encampment from police. Despite the police, and despite the snow, Colorado's weather's crazy, our camp managed to persist for 53 days until students' graduation happened. And then next slide. Yeah, this was literally the day after the cops showed up. They decided to snow, but it gave us a sense of solidarity with what the people in Gaza were going through in the biting cold, to stand there and call for their safety and their protection. In addition to that, our chapter in Colorado has engaged in a lot of vigils. Again, this is out in the snow. This is the Colorado State Capitol building. We projected ceasefire now, and we all candlelight vigil in conjunction with the national movement at the time, which was not another hospital, not another bomb. Next slide. Just kind of go through it. There you go. And so these are all my fellow doctors within Colorado who all showed up and continue to do the great work that Doctors Against Genocide is doing here for advocacy within the United States. However, I did not feel that was enough. I didn't feel like we were getting the changes that we needed on the ground. And so last year I had the eternal privilege of getting to go to Gaza in January. And so for those that don't know, this is actually the Gaza crossing. Gaza is the most controlled place on earth. When you get to the Gaza crossing, this is actually looking towards occupied Palestine from Gaza. And so you actually get dropped off by the buses on the other side, and you have to carry your bags, your supplies. I think that's like close to 100, 120 pounds in both of my suitcases. And you have to walk about 500 meters through 7 different gates and fences and observation posts until you get to the other side. And that's it. There you are met with a bus that takes you further on into Gaza. This is what it looks like when we first went into Gaza. This is actually what Rafah looked like at the time. And you can see just utter devastation. Next slide. During my first time in Gaza, I saw that the assault on the people of Gaza was broken up into 3 components: direct assaults on their infrastructure, on their lives, and also on their mind and their psychological health. And so you can see this is an elementary school that has been bombed by the occupation. This is the view from Nasser Hospital looking out towards the dialysis center. For those of you who have family members who are on dialysis, you will know that patients who are on dialysis cannot be fighters because they spend 2 to 3 hours 4 times a week getting dialysis. And if you look, this building does not have a tank shell fired into it, does not have a bullet fired into it, because this was not a military base. When Nasser Hospital fell to the occupation, they actually went in and burned this building because they sought to destroy the life-giving infrastructure. In the foreground, you can see just crushed ambulances, and ambulances that they cut the wiring out of when they withdrew from Nasser Hospital because they were unable to destroy them in time to prevent their use. After spending a couple of days at Nasser Hospital, During this time, the Western corridor was still a military corridor, was still a red zone. Nobody was allowed to cross from the south to the north. We managed to obtain permission from the Israeli military to cross, except that they asked us to cross at night. Because the Western corridor is a red zone, it meant that anybody who approached it was shot if they did not have permission. And so as we drove down this road, we would see bodies on the side of the road decaying in the street. Over here you can see, kind of hard to see, Shahad, the laser pointer. Oh. Up there, that's a body. If you want to look at it, I'll show you later. There's the rib tips that are sticking out as the body's decaying in the street. But despite that, we did not have permission to stop and collect this body. We have to continue driving. Next slide. We were fortunate in that we were able to make it to the north at a time when no other medical teams were being allowed that far north. I'm a pediatrician, so this is the hospital that I worked at. This is the Patient-Friendly Benevolent Society Hospital. In my first time in Gaza, I would enter 6 different hospitals, and every single one of them had been bombed, shelled, or burned to a degree. And so you can already see that the roof is falling apart in this hospital. Next slide. This is how the hospital looked when I arrived. You can see there's tar on the buildings beside it. And so this hospital has been rebuilt by the ever industrious people of Gaza. But just 3 months prior to my time there, next slide. This is what the hospital looked like. Again, this is a children's hospital. It had been shelled, you can see from the tank grounds in the front, it had been fired at, it had been burned. Next slide. One of the things that I never thought about working in the United States is the infrastructure that hospitals require. Where does the oxygen in our hospitals come from? Most hospitals will have an oxygen concentrator that just funnels oxygen throughout the hospital. At the time, there was one oxygen concentrator remaining in the North for a population of about 600,000 people. And so every day, the different hospitals that still existed would go and fill oxygen cylinders and essentially connect them to their oxygen supply. And every 2 hours in the hospital, there would be an alarm that would go off so that somebody would go down and hot swap these oxygen tanks so that our patients didn't suffocate. Next slide. Additionally, this is a picture from the OR. I am a pediatrician, but when it was all hands on deck, I would go wherever I was needed, whether it's the emergency room or the operating room. And so this is a picture when I was helping out my actually local Michigan friend, Dr. Ramos, with anesthesia and a power out in the OR, and you have to continue working. Next slide. This is the famous Shifa Hospital. This is how it looked at the time. The Shifa Hospital was the beating heart of Gaza. Shifa Hospital was larger than most U.S. hospitals. Shifa Hospital was approximately 900 beds, 950 beds. And next slide, you can see that Shifa Hospital was utterly devastated inside and out. This was a deliberate attempt to destroy whatever life-saving infrastructure there existed in Gaza. Next slide. This is, in addition to the attacks on life-saving infrastructure, there's attacks directly on the bodies and the lives of people in Gaza. This is work I was doing with my friend Dr. Wahab on a 5-year-old boy who had this piece of shrapnel that went through his back, tore through his diaphragm, destroyed his spleen, destroyed about 3/4 of his pancreas, punched holes in his large intestine, and the blast injury itself caused damage to his small intestine. Next slide.
Did he live?
Did. And so that piece of shrapnel, the same one I have here if anybody wants to see it, is 15 grams. It came from a bomb that was bought and paid for in the United States. Next slide. Those are all different organs that we had to pull out of them. Next slide. He survived, but ultimately ended up needing a colostomy. You can imagine colostomy care in a war zone is not something that is easily afforded. But despite all of this, I still say he was one of the lucky children that I dealt with while I was in Gaza, because, next slide, our most feared complication was this. This hole that you see is about the size of the tip of a ballpoint pen. This child, about 3 years old, he was near a bombing. He was not directly in one, and he had some rubble fall on him. And so when he came into the ED, he had lacerations on his arms and legs. I was working in the Baptist hospital at the time during this mass casualty incident, and so I cleaned up his wounds, I stitched up his lacerations, and moved on to the next patient, as we have to do when 60, 70 patients show up. After I finished with the second patient, his parents turned to me and told me that he's acting a little bit funny, he's not responding as much. It's not unusual when you're nearby an explosion to suffer a concussive injury. And so we chalked it up to that and we kept on moving. After I treated the third patient, the parents told me he's a lot sleepier now. And again, I gave him the same response. And then they said, you stitch up every other injury, can you stitch up this one injury? When I went to clean this, I understood then that this was not a simple laceration like anything else. This was penetrating trauma this was penetrating head trauma. And so we immediately sent him for a CT, only to find out that he had a tiny piece of shrapnel that had gone through the side of his head and caused bleeding within his brain. By the time he came back from the CT, his child was no longer conscious. One of the hardest things about working in Gaza as an international medical worker is families believe that you can do more. They believe that the medicine changes from here in the United States to Gaza. The only difference I noticed is, if anything, the doctors in Gaza are more competent than myself. And so these parents were grabbing at the same coat you see here, grabbing at my arms, asking me to do anything. The only thing I could do was turn to the nurse and ask them to find this child and their family a quiet bed in the back of the ER in the midst of all this chaos. And this child eventually passed away. Next slide. Somehow, despite all the horrors, we managed to make time to try and bring back joy and happiness to the kids as well. This is in the middle of a mass casualty incident, sitting in the handing out stickers once things had calmed down. Ultimately, I'm a pediatrician. I almost have stickers of candy in my pocket. Next slide. As I mentioned, the attack was not just on their bodies and on their lives, but also on the psyche of the people of Gaza. This is beautiful little Farha. She's 9 years old. I was standing in the hospital, in the Baptist hospital, passing out stickers, and so I was passing out frozen stickers. And so she asked me to walk across the hospital and give some stickers to her friend. And as we're walking across, I asked her to tell me about her friend, and she goes, "Oh, she's not actually my best friend. She's my best friend's sister." And I was like, "Well, let's go give your best friend stickers then." She's like, "My best friend is buried in the courtyard." And so as we're passing by, she tells me that her friend also is like frozen, and asks if we can leave some stickers at her grave. And I've been a pediatrician now for about 6 years, and I've never once had that question asked of me. I did not know how to respond, and so I went and I dusted off this grocery and I put frozen stickers on it. Next slide. I put this slide up here because after our 2-week mission was done, thankfully the January ceasefire went into effect, but that meant that we were also stuck in the north. And so we used that as an opportunity to work on, quote-unquote, elective cases that we were unable to get to, and just the utter devastation that we were dealing with. And so I feel like too often in the media there is a demonization of brown and black bodies. And so this is the father of an 8-month-old baby girl. This baby girl was in a bombing that unfortunately left that piece of shrapnel that went through her skull and caused her, she was completely normal prior, to now have a seizure disorder. If you notice, she's also on a ventilator because she had a big piece of shrapnel that went through her neck, tore through her esophagus and her trachea, and left a massive hole, leading to her needing to be ventilated. It also created a fistula, an abnormal connection between her esophagus and her trachea, meaning that she was drowning within her own secretions. And so this was what we considered an elective case in Gaza at the time during the war. And so working with our surgeons, we managed to get the necessary information, the CT, for this child, and made the recommendation to her father that she needed surgery. And so this man, who is brown and has a beard in the United States, would probably be profiled. I saw this man sit and sing to this child and reach our arms to her and tell her that there was just one more surgery and they would go back home together. I came to find out that this man had lost his wife and his 4-year-old child in the bombing, and this was his only remaining family. Next slide. That tiny little white spot, there's like a darker area next to it. That's the entrance of the piece of shrapnel that went through her head. Next slide. She was fortunate and survived because the shrapnel went through her skull, went into her brain, but stopped on the back of her skull and did not come up, so she did not bleed out. Next slide. But again, the utter destruction of the healthcare system at the time meant that even something as simple as getting a CT actually not even just at the time, even now, was a monumentous task. This is a child who was on a ventilator, who we had to put in the back of an ambulance. I have a manual ambu bag that I'm ventilating her with for about 15 minutes to the Baptist hospital that had the only functioning CT in all of the north. I should say that still only has the only functioning CT in all of the north of Westland. And then get our imaging and then bring her back for surgery. Next slide. Despite everything, despite all the horrors that we saw in Gaza, there's also hope, there's also life. One of the reasons why I chose to go into pediatrics is because children have the beautiful ability of finding joy in the most dire circumstances. As adults, we get hung up on the circumstances and what's going on, but children are very simple. They need safety, they need security, they need something to eat, and they'll find joy even in down power lights. That they turned me to a swing. So it was a privilege getting to be there when the ceasefire went into effect because I got to see not the city of Westland Blossom, I got to see the people of Westland Blossom. I got to see the children come out and play again. And I also got to be there the day that the North and the South finally opened. Too often we get caught up in materialistic things in this world. But every one of these people who had not seen their family members in over a year and a half of genocide, the first thing that they would say when they saw each other was, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. Their only worry was the safety of their family members. They did not ask them about a house, about a car, about a job. And these are people who walked the entire length of the Gaza Strip to get to see their family members in the north. So when I was in Gaza, one of the biggest lessons I learned is what kept them alive during the most horrific genocide of my lifetime was their strong sense of community, their strong sense of belief and support for each other. And so when I came back, I continued my work with Doctors Against Genocide, and I asked Yvonne and Dr. Karam how else we could continue to try and support the people of Gaza. And so one of the amazing things that Doctors Against Genocide does is they do Capitol Hill Days. Every month, there are doctors that are going and knocking on the doors of the highest levels to try and make significant change, to try and enact change for the people of Westland. So this was the day that I was there. On the bottom, this is all the other doctors who were with us that day. This is us kind of walking down the train station. I had the chance to, yes, thank you, Medea. I had the opportunity to meet Medea, and then this, we actually managed to hold the Senate office building lobby, despite the police coming and shouting at us and threatening to arrest us multiple times, until everybody had the chance to speak their piece and speak it loudly so that staffers, so that senators who were in the building, could hear what we had to say, could hear the call to action to save the people of Westland, in addition to the meetings that they had scheduled normally in their offices. And so I took that same energy back with me when I went back to Colorado and worked with our people. And so this is one of the events that I'm most proud of. So the American Academy of Pediatrics held their national meeting in Denver, Colorado this past year. And so together with our local healthcare workers, we organized a digital outside to remind every doctor going in and out that they have an oath to their patients, to the children of the world, to not only care for the patients in front of them, but to advocate, to speak up for children everywhere, which is a core tenet of Doctors Against Genocide. And so, very happy to say, not related to the job we did, but more so related to the long-term work that Doctors Against Genocide has been doing, has been helping to organize pediatricians and other doctors to write their respective professional organizations. Last year, the American Academy of Pediatrics actually published a letter calling for demanding the release of Dr. Qassem Abu Sofia and calling for the protection of children in conflict zones. Dr. Qassem Abu Sofia, for those who don't know, is a pediatrician.
What's that?
So, this was this 2 weeks ago, roughly now, I came back from my second medical mission to Gaza. I had the eternal honor of getting to go again. And so this is as I was entering. If you guys recall, Rafah had destroyed buildings, but Rafah is gone now. With what the Israelis have done, with what the Israeli military has done with the yellow line, has meant that everything beyond that yellow line has become utter devastation. And so it just goes on for miles. Next slide. So that's either this behind the yellow line, or this destroyed buildings and piles of rubble. And amongst all of that, next slide. Oh, can you go one more? Just miles and miles of tech cities. And so being in Gaza this time allowed me to see the change in the healthcare needs. For the last time I was there, it was very acute, it was very trauma related, but this time we could see the massive fractures that had developed in the healthcare system. The fractures that were deliberately dealt to the healthcare system. And so, go back one more. And so this is a picture of myself doing an echo on a newborn who unfortunately was noted to have a murmur and some difficulty breathing, and was found to have a congenital cardiac malformation. Prior to all of this that had been going on, this child would have been evacuated within 24 hours for emergency surgery. And so this child was unable to leave. This is the NICU at Nasser Hospital. And so I would ride with them, I would spend time with them. And so the cardiac kids, I'd say 95% of them ended up dying. The only option we had was to just leave them. If they survived on their own, they survived. There was very little interventions that we could do. And then the other case that really stuck with me, and I actually reached out to Nilan while I was in Gaza about, was our premature babies. The premature babies, when they're born, are missing a crucial factor that our body forms in the last roughly 6 weeks of pregnancy called surfactant. And so if you're born anywhere under 34 weeks, you're born and you go into severe respiratory distress. And so what we do as doctors is we give patients a synthetic surfactant. This synthetic surfactant is not available in all of Gaza. And so I had one night with three different premature babies died on me because of this easily available emergency medication that the WHO lists in their emergency medication kit. It is not available in Gaza, and that is by design. So after a certain point, I had to leave the NICU. There was enough doctors staffing a hospital because now there are doctors who are available to treat patients because they're no longer treating just trauma. Go over 2 slides. Okay, back one. And so this allowed me to get out of the hospital and get into the community and see what was going on with people living in these tent cities, living in these neighborhoods that have been utterly destroyed. This is the Jabalia neighborhood in the far north, where my friend, next slide, Dr. Ezra Shab, I think is in Gaza, is his handle on X. So he's from Jabalia, and when Jabalia was completely leveled, he actually set up a tent medical clinic to treat his neighbors and the people in the area for free. One of the things that he told me is when the school was built in the area and the mosque was built, and finally his clinic was built, people stopped leaving Jabalia. People actually started moving back. Despite the destruction, people had the necessary factors for life. They had a place to get care for their bodies, a place to get care for their children, and a place to get care for their soul. And so this is myself and him. We worked daily at the Ramadan Medical Center, as it's called, seeing in excess of 100 plus patients a day. In addition to just diagnosing patients, next slide. This is what the inside of the clinic actually looks like. You can see it's all just parts. There is a pharmacy where he distributes medications for free. The problem is, my time and his time, we can volunteer and we can donate it. However, medications do cost money ultimately. And so typically we're limited to around 40, 50 patients per day that we were able to give free medications to before we would have to start telling patients that, I'm sorry, we don't have anything else to give, and turn them away. Again, during my time there, I recognized the need on the ground, and I reached out to Dr. Nilan, and I reached out to Doctors Against Genocide and expressed what had been going on and what I had seen. And so Dr. Nivan and Doctors Against Genocide committed to funding Rahma Medical Center so that they can continue providing free medical care to the furthest most northern regions of Jabalia, about a kilometer actually away from the yellow line. In addition to this, I also came to find out that Doctors Against Genocide was supporting not only one, but multiple medical clinics in the far north. Again, amidst all of this rubble and destruction. This is a medical point that has been set up by EMTs and now has a physical therapy clinic, has a ophthalmology clinic, has a obstetrics and gynecology clinic, has a nutrition clinic, and has a wound care clinic, all funded from Doctors Against Genocide. Take it. Next one. This is the physical therapy area, and all of this material and equipment has to be constructed within ESSA because you cannot get any of this brought in. So they have beds, they have physical therapists, they set up appointments, schedules, and medical records, and again, all of this care is being provided for free. Next slide. As well as getting to go to another free medical clinic that's set up with the Gaza Forum for the Visually Impaired. Within the Gaza Strip, there is very little work left. There is very little opportunity for people who want to show love for their neighbors, for their family members right now, and even more so if you're visually impaired. And so Doctors Against Genocide has been working with them to empower them to be able to give back, to be able to take an active role in rebuilding their community. I think I should have all the slides I have. Oh, good. Okay. In conclusion, I just want to thank you all so much for being here and for listening to me. Ultimately, my journey with Doctors Against Genocide began 3 years ago when this genocide began, and it has been beautiful getting to see how the organization has grown, how it has adapted, going from purely, educational, but moving to the advocacy space, and now moving more so into direct action. I think it is something that is reflected upon my own character as well, and something that I'm going to continue doing. It has been an honor to get to be a member of Doctors Against Genocide, and I hope you will choose to contribute to support the mission and the exceptional work that they are doing. Thank you so much for being here.
I just want to remind you guys all, there are cards on the tables. We appreciate your donations. So you can just scan that QR code and donate. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing to care. In this country, with our political system, our political environment, and what's happening to our homelands, there's a lot to complain about. But there's only one thing to be thankful of, one thing to be proud of, and one thing that we got it better than anything else. That thing is our representative for Congress is Congresswoman Rashida Tariq. I think everyone knows Rashida does not need the introduction, but we all, each and every one of us, want to thank Rashida. Thank you for what you do. Keep going. We're proud of you, and we got your back. Welcome, Rashida.
Assalamu alaikum. Ahlan wa sahlan. So I want to come and tell you perspective of the fact when the movement of Doctors Against Genocide was birthed. When they showed up to Capitol Hill, it was incredible. Because I don't think you all realize we started with Teachers Against Genocide, Nurses Against Genocide, Labor Against Genocide. We just kept going on, and Artists Against Genocide. And then, of course, all that started because doctors showed up on the Hill that were doing missionary work. One after the other, many of them who did not share my faith or ethnicity started showing up to the Hill. At first, none of them had photos. Nobody had like a slideshow, and I think they learned their lesson. Because the second round, the first time everyone came, I just remember somebody, was a doctor who did missionary work with the NGO. He said it was a bunch of us members of Congress, and he said, I worked in Ukraine, and maybe we get one patient in 9 hours. In Gaza, they said we were getting patients within, there was no time to even breathe. Within an hour, there were 70, 80 patients, and majority of them being children. The second time they showed up on the Hill, many people did not want to meet with them. Many members of Congress avoided them. And it's because they were bringing the truth. But slowly but surely, more meetings were accepted. But I think when you all started coming back, and even though I know it was hard, I remember a doctor from California who's Egyptian American. He said he was a plastic surgeon. That was his specialty. That he worked on burn victims. People with scars, just it's not only for the cosmetics. I mean, this guy was serious about working with victims of burns and fires and things of that nature. And he said, Rashida, at first I was like, I can't take pictures of the kids. But he said after the 7th kid came with a bullet hole in his head and his skull, and they're 6, 7 years old, I had to start taking pictures. He showed me and Congresswoman Cori Bush, one side after the other, just small bodies with direct bullet holes in their head. He was so strong until he started talking about a child coming in, and early on in the genocide, you all may remember, many of you do, you're all doctors, white phosphorus being used. And he said, through just trying to breathe through it, he said, to us, he said, Congresswoman, I have to tell you that when the body came, I wasn't taught or trained as a doctor to treat someone exposed to white phosphorus. Because just the oxygen in the air was eating the flesh of this little boy. And he said, I didn't know what to do. Even with all the training and everything, literally just watching a small body be exposed to white phosphorus, which is a war crime to use. And they continue to use it. And I say this to all of you because I think sometimes you think it's not working. It is. It may not move on the Hill, on what they call the Hill, the members of Congress not moving. Sometimes I'll just I don't care. And I'm going to say it, okay? Sometimes in the back of my mind, I say, Allah is going to, I don't know if how it's going to show up, but it will show up. Because I do believe in my heart, many of them know, but they don't want to take the meetings because they don't want to see anymore. They don't want to hear it anymore. They don't want the truth. They want to look the other way because that's the easiest way.
But you all, outside of Congress, and the work that you're doing, you notice it. You're being invited in spaces that people in the room are not doctors, they're not Arab, they're not Muslim, they're not, people that even understood what was going on in Palestine from 1948 and on. You know what I mean? They didn't understand, but they're inviting you into spaces. More Americans today are with us than ever. More Americans, again, all around the country are with us. And I'll tell you why it's impactful. I had a colleague from Wisconsin tell me he was in rural Wisconsin at a town hall. A white farmer, a man, gets up and asks him, why are we funding genocide? Yeah. Listen to that. I mean, that's the power of the fact that you all don't realize that outside agitation is what will move Congress. It comes, resistance, moving our country comes in different forms. But I grew up in a city, I kid you not, community mothers would teach us over and over again that members of Congress and the President of the United States didn't wake up one day and said, wow, the Civil Rights Act is a really good idea. Maybe organizing labor is such a great idea. It was people from the outside who boycotted, marched, did civil disobedience, kept going, moving. Because now, oh, I'm not taking AIPAC money. Oh, I'm not doing this or that. Because more people outside, and unfortunately had to be people that didn't look like this room, pushing members of Congress to move. But it's because many Americans see what is actually happening and inviting us in spaces and learning more and more because of the work that you all are doing. Keep doing it. Muhammad, you taking the photos, I know it's hard because you feel like it's weird, like I know. I've been in places, even in my black and brown communities, where I'm like, do I take picture of the poverty? Because poverty is so painful in my community. It's so bad that I want to show people garbage bags over fountains in my school and say, my kids don't have access to clean water, but we always have money to bomb Gaza or to bomb Venezuela and to go, and start another war. It is unbelievable to me that my colleagues, poof, will come up with the money like this for that, but never have money for my community members here. So keep up with the work that you all are doing. Many of you have met with your members of Congress. It's funny, they all think we're related, by the way. No, I'm just. You guys, you guys are doing protests. My colleagues will send me a picture from New Orleans. I'll say, Representative, I don't know who they are. They look like they could be your constituent. You should probably meet with them. Because I'm being serious. People think like, look what they're saying. You can't hide, you committed genocide. That's the video. And it's them protesting, and they think like I'm in charge. And I said, no. This is an American issue. This is not a Muslim Arab issue. It's not a Palestinian Jewish issue. This is an American issue. And more Americans are rising up and saying enough is enough. If anything, they are showing just how incredibly immoral and just unjust our country is when we will literally, with the snap of the fingers, fund death and destruction, but not our schools and our health care and so much more that our residents and community members have here. I'll tell you, I'm actually the congresswoman for Dr. Nadal. So I always feel responsibility to bail him out when he gets arrested. And I always tell him, no, I'm judged, you have to put myself in next time. They let him out right away. But I always feel, when I see him, because I see the videos, I always feel like I need to make sure my staff person is over there, somebody while I'm in committee to watch over my constituent. But Dr. Nadal comes by my office, I don't know, do you have a practice? Do you? I see it, right? Because, no, him and Manny, this one too, Manny are on the hill. I feel like I don't ever see them on a plane with me. I don't know how they get there, but they're on the hill almost weekly. Wallahi. They're there all the time, and let me tell you, they don't wait for appointments anymore. Hello, we're here to talk to you about Doctors Against Genocide and see what work we're doing. And I'll tell you why this is powerful. Again, alhamdulillah, you have the capacity and you have the know-all and not every movement can. But you're making the time, again, to be visible and literally not going anywhere. But I love the fact that every time I see down the hallway the white coats, I know it's against the people that are trying to free Palestine and trying to make sure that our country moves away from this addiction to war and genocide. But thank you so much for everything that you all are doing. Continue to support this amazing organization. Continue the important work of the mission work. Muhammad, you did an amazing job from Colorado to Gaza. We are freeing people from, again, allowing us to watch our babies die with just little pieces of shrapnel on their heads. because our country thinks that's okay. And I sometimes pray to Allah, one day, I don't want an apology. I want one day for this to be the reason they don't do it to anyone else. Thank you so much.
Extra round of applause for Rashida, please. I'm going to read some comments because my lawyer was here told me you cannot talk without certain stuff, otherwise you get in trouble, you get everyone in trouble. So I'm going to listen to his advice this time. And again, thank all of you for being here, for joining us in this iftar, to show the support for our people in Gaza and Palestine, Sudan, Congo, everywhere where communities are impacted. And as you saw, despite the siege, the scarcity, the displacement, our colleagues in Gaza continue to practice medicine with astonishing rigor and courage. They operate without supplies. They improvise under bombardment. They treat patients while grieving their own families. Doctors Against Genocide exists because we believe something very simple and non-negotiable. Every human life has equal value, wherever it is. This is non-negotiable. And when life is threatened, silence is not an option. We stand with Gaza, we stand with Palestine, and we stand with every community facing mass harm in Yemen, Sudan, Congo, Rohingya, Kashmir, Lebanon, Syria, Iran, and here at home with our vulnerable communities and our immigrant brothers and sisters. And our support is not just symbolic. We mobilize and speak up to stop harm before it becomes irreversible. We educate, we organize, and we stand with the survivors, not over them, not instead of them, but through them, centering their voices, honoring their agency, and helping rebuild what was deliberately destroyed. This is not a charity, this is solidarity, this is responsibility. And whoever saves one life, it is as if he saved all of humanity. So again, thank you for standing with Gaza. Thank you for standing with the different communities. And thank you for choosing humanity, not only in words, but in action. Thank you, Amr. And
just one other thing.
yes.
We wanted to say a very special thank you to you. You're joining live. If you recall, I talked about the graduation for the medical students that Doctors Against Genocide helped to contribute to help make their 6 years of hard work a day of celebration after everything that they had been through. They wanted, and this came from directly from Dr. Iftar himself, they wanted to honor you for the hard work you've done as well.
Okay, good evening. مساء الخير. going to turn on all the lights for us in a second. Again, I'm so happy to be with all of you here. My name is Ahmed Zaha, but I think I know almost everybody in this room. So, good evening, Ramadan Kareem, and we're so honored to have all our guests with us in here tonight. I think that's wonderful. Who's your lawyer?
That's Ahmed Zaha.
Okay, all right.
He saved me one time. He told me next time you have to read, otherwise they'll not represent you.
So, and then if Nadal ever talks about my lawyer skills, understand it's only free for him. Everyone else has to pay. Only free for him. I've been lucky enough to have been watching from the first days of Doctors Against Genocide coming out and becoming this wonderful organization right after the start of the genocide in October 2023. We have a strong Palestinian and Arab community here in Michigan, and we have supported each other through many organizations that we have here, like NGP and other things that we have that have worked hard to support each other. And we did everything we can to support Dr. Nidal when he started this organization, and we're so proud of where it's become. Now, I have been to Palestine 6 times since the start of this war. Since October 7th, I have gone to Palestine 6 times. Remember, we never visit Palestine, we only return to Palestine. And I have been there 6 times returning since the beginning of this war, and this is my message to all of you. And before I continue, I'd like everyone to turn their chairs towards the stage. I don't want anyone's back to me anymore. Turn your chairs towards the stage. I'll give you like 10 seconds. Turn your chairs towards the stage. Turn your chairs, turn your chairs, turn your chairs. Get comfortable, because I'm going to ask you for something in a minute too. Well, these guys are doing like awards things. Okay, oh, so, when I go to Palestine, like I said, I've been there 6 times. And I don't know if some of you heard, the last time I was there, the Israelis decided to arrest me after a comedy show. And I had 3 shows scheduled in that night, the day after Christmas, December 26th, in Nazareth, Palestine, where I'm from. And after the first show, the Israeli police came up and talked to me. They said, we'd like to talk to you. I said, is this optional? They said, no. I said, grab your kids. I said, is this optional? They said, no. I said, can I come tomorrow? They said, no. Luckily at that show, that first show I did, I had a lawyer who was one of my fans there, so she saw I was getting arrested, and she said that she would go with me to the police station. We walked into the police station, and of course, Israel, as you know, is a major democracy where they guarantee rights of lawyers and all these kinds of things. I walked into the police station as people were waiting for my other show. I walked in there and I said, I have my lawyer with me. And the police said, no lawyers. I said, why? They said, well, because we just want to have a conversation with you. We're not, this isn't really an interrogation. We just want to have a conversation. We just want to, and then we went inside. They sat me down and they said to me, what do you do? I said, I'm a comedian. They said, where do you live? I said, America. They said, in your speeches and your comedy, do you do incitement against the state of Israel? I said, of course not. They said, are you thinking of doing incitement against the state of Israel? I said, of course not. They said to me, do you support the state of Israel or are you against the state of Israel? I said, I would prefer not to answer this question. They said, no, you must answer. So I said, neither. None of the above. Please put neither. Then they said to me, we just want to let you know that if you continue your incitement and threats against the state of Israel, you could be in prison for a very long time. For those of you who don't know, Israel has something they call administrative detention, where they can arrest you without warrant, without lawyers for 6 months and then keep renewing it. And they said, we can do that to you. I said, okay, thank you. While I was sitting there, people asked me when I was sitting there, was I thinking about calling the American embassy or anything like that? I said, who am I going to call, Trump? Who am I going to call? My company? My company is only in Palestine because he's just waiting for Jesus to come back. And Jesus is going to come back. When he comes back, he's not going to say, where's my company? I definitely have to talk to my company. Finally, they gave me a piece of paper in Hebrew. They said, sign this. I said, I'm sorry, I don't speak Hebrew. They said, it's okay, it's just what we were talking about. I said, I'm sorry, I don't speak Hebrew, and I'm a lawyer. It wouldn't be right for me to sign something that I don't understand. And I said, I brought my lawyer, she's outside, she'll come in and read it for me. They said, no lawyers. So I wrote in English on this piece of paper, I do not understand Hebrew, and I signed my name and I gave it to them. This whole thing took about an hour and a half or more, and I finally walked out of the police station in Nazareth. Nazareth, as some of you know, is located inside, but it is a fully Palestinian town. And listen, I live in Dearborn. I thought that I understood Arab gossip and how quickly people learn things in the Arab community, but I walked out of that police station and there was already 10 Arab guys with phones in front of my face. Already there was many stories in Arabic and all this kind of stuff. And now it's about 8:15, there was a show that was supposed to start at 7 p.m. I walked out of the police station, I said to my cousin, what about the people from the 7 o'clock show? Where are they? And he said, they're sitting waiting for you to come back. And that's the real story. That Palestinians, no matter what, we are not going to let the Israelis mess up our day, or mess up our weekend, or mess up our life. Those people sat there and waited. Not because of me. Not because of me. Because everybody's life is going to keep going. There's a reason that we can keep going all the time. It's because we have the truth. And that is the spirit of the Palestinian people that we have seen every day. And finally, I'll say this. Whenever I go to Palestine, especially in the last 2 years, people say to me, Ahmed, we know you live in America. We want you to say thank you to all the people in America. Thank you to the people in Michigan who are marching. Thank you to everyone who's been standing up and saying free Palestine from the river to the sea. They see what we're doing. And so, while all of us here for the past 2 years, we have all gotten our strength from the strength of the people of Gaza, right? We have all looked at them and seen how strong they are. But what you all need to understand is that the people in Palestine see us too. And in some way, they get some of their strength from us. So we have to keep going. We cannot stop. It might seem like on the news that everything's okay. Trump might trick you with his 20-point plan and his peace board. But things are not okay. We need to keep going because we are winning. People have learned the truth. And in no short way have they learned the truth because of what Doctors Against Genocide have been doing for these last 2 years. Doctors Against Genocide is one of the reasons that Americans, and especially people in Washington, are learning the truth and starting to stand up for the truth. And we're going to see next year and the years after. I don't know if you saw this, but a couple days ago, the Democrats put out I should probably say the opinions expressed by Ahmed do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Doctors Against Genocide, so that they don't lose their status. 2 days ago, the Democratic National Committee had a meeting, and apparently they decided in their meeting that the reason they lost the election in 2024 was because of Gaza. And that was leaked on the news. Now, that was a year and a half ago. Raise your hand if during that election you were telling the Democrats you are going to lose because of Gaza. That's every single one of us in this room. We know the truth, we knew our communities, and we knew what was going on. Now finally it seems like they've admitted it. Zohran Mamdani won in New York because of Gaza. We are going to have candidates this year in Michigan that win because of Gaza. And when presidential candidates come up in 2028, the litmus test that they're going to be asked about is where did you stand on Gaza? And that is because of the strength of our people back home, and that is because of the strength of us here that we have not given up. And I urge all of you not to give up. It might be tempting now that it seems like things are okay to go back to the way we did politics before and be happy when a politician says, I love homeless or something like that. But if we do that, then that would have meant everything that happened in the last 3 years didn't mean anything. We have to make sure our standards are high. And if that means that less politicians like us, that's okay. And if that means that we don't have as much influence as everyone else, that's great. You raise your hand, Henry?
I am.
Yes, go ahead, Henry.
I think you mentioned.
I've known Henry for 30 years, so he's allowed to raise his hand while I talk. Henry is one of our brothers from Ann Arbor that every Saturday they stand in front of the biggest synagogue in Ann Arbor and protest against Israel for 30 years. Probably more than 30 years. So yes, Henry, you are one of the 3 people in here that are allowed to interrupt. Please.
You said that the genocide started in October 7th.
Yes, you're right, I misspoke.
I think it started in May of 1948.
I agree. It started in May 15, 1948. It has never stopped.
And I'm glad you admitted that. I think that we need to call for an end to Israel. And I would hope the Doctors Against Genocide get political.
Oh, Doctors Against Genocide has been political. They've been in Washington all the time, but I understand what you're
They
saying.
have not called for an end to Israel, and we need to do that.
Okay, thank you, Henry. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. We're all gonna get arrested tonight.
What about we now?
Ahmed, we're here for the fundraiser on
So, the message again that I wanted to put forward is that while we get our strength from the people in Gaza, remember that every Palestinian living in Palestine today who refuses to leave under great pressure, they're getting their strength from watching us stand up for them here. And part of that standing up is all these papers on your table. I want everyone to pick up these papers that you have on your table. Look at them now. I know that some of you, because our hostess earlier said that we're collecting donations, and some of you started to look at them, and some of you even filled in a number. Whatever number that you filled in, cross it out, because it's about to get a little bigger. You can see on this piece of paper, we are not going to do the typical Arab fundraiser where we go around the room and say, who will give me 10,000, who will give me, we're not going to do that. But I do want everybody to look at this paper and let's look at it together. $50 supports one family, $100 bread for 100 families, $200 support one family for 4 meals, $2,000 support 10 families for Ramadan. And then the healthcare support here, $500 sponsor a healthcare worker, medical student, $1,500 for a surgery, $2,500 to support a medical point for 1 week, and $10,000 to support a medical point for 1 month. Now, I don't need to go through again and tell you of the amazing work they're doing. You saw it in all the presentations that we saw here today. Real work being done on the ground in Gaza. And it is our responsibility to make sure that we are part of the rebuilding of our homeland. It's our responsibility to make sure that we help somebody that we don't know. How many of you came to this country from somewhere else? Don't worry, there's not an immigration meeting. How many of you? A lot of you, right? And you came here and you succeeded. And you did very well. And you're smart and you work hard. But somebody helped you along the way. Somebody helped you along the way. And it might be somebody that you never met before. But somebody helped you along the way. And that's what we're doing here tonight. So I would like all of you to pick whatever makes sense for you here. Are these Shabbat helping out? Is that what they're doing? Okay, good. These Shabbat, right? Split up, split up, split up. Like, why don't you go back there? Why don't you go somewhere? What's your name, Richard? Hassan? What's your name? Yusuf. Yusuf, what's your name? Muhammad Hassan. Muhammad, Hassan, and Yusuf are going to split up and go around the room. When you have filled out one of these, raise your hand. They will come and take it from you. But please do whatever hurts the most, but you can still handle yourself walking out of here tonight. I saw the cars in the parking lot. Everyone is doing very well. We are lucky. We have worked hard and we are doing very well. I know, and I also know all of you. So I know that $2,500 or even $10,000 is not a lot. That you can do it. And I know that you can do it. You don't have to do it all at one time. You can split it out among months. As you see here, there's a monthly gift. So if you wanted to give $10,000 and you wanted to make it a monthly gift for a year, you could put it in there, $800 monthly for a year. And put whatever details you need to put on there. But I know that we can make these things happen tonight. We're not going to do it the traditional way. I'm just going to give everybody a few minutes while I'm talking to you to look at these forms and fill out what you know you can do for the people of Gaza, for the people who have given you strength over these last 3 years, for the people who you have shared their videos, for the people who you have told their stories. That is why we are here tonight. And so I want everyone to fill this out. By the way, even if tonight you may not be able to donate, I still want you to fill this out so that we have everyone's information. And I still want you to become an ambassador for this organization. For those of you who are younger and you know about social media, take a picture of this thing and put it on your story right now. This is all about creating awareness and making sure that we are part of the rebuilding not only of the society of Gaza, but the rebuilding of the dignity of our people in Palestine. I want you to look at the people on your table and ask them how much they're giving. And then you give a little bit more, and then start competing with them. We all have to be part of the success of this organization and the revitalization and the re-energy of our people back home. Where's my young guys? Raise your hand, my young guys that are still around the room. Raise your hand if you have a paper and you need to give it to one of them. They will come around and pick it up for you. When you're done filling out the paper, raise your hand and they will come. Keep your hand up until somebody comes and picks it up. Come to the front, my guys. I got one over here at the middle table. Raise your hand if you have a question, if you need a pen. If you are done filling it out, either way, make sure that one of these guys will come around and pick it up. Keep your hands raised until they come and get it from you. That we have to be part of helping the people of Gaza back into dignity and to rebuild the country, because no one's going to help us. I don't care how many boards of peace they set up. I don't know how many governments care that they're going to give billions of dollars. It's going to be up to us at the end of the day. So please look at these sheets one more time. I'm just going to be here for a few more minutes. Everyone needs to be filling out one of these sheets tonight. You can do it with your credit card. You can do it with a check. You can do it with cash. You can do it monthly. You can do it one time. But I know that we have the ability, and I know that we have the will to do this here tonight for Doctors Against Genocide. Raise your hand if you need somebody to come by and pick up your paper. Raise your hand if you have a question or you need another paper. But our young guys will go around and get them. Yusuf, Sam, and Muhammad. They will walk around and get them for you. Who am I handing it back to? You? Yeah. Okay, just give me one more minute. Yes. So they're going to put on a video right now while we're still filling out these papers. One of the projects of Doctors Against Genocide is the rebuilding of the Gaza Hospital in Gaza. So they'll put on this video, and I'll keep talking to you all. Make sure that you all fill out these papers. Go ahead, you can start the video. Fill out these papers. If you need one of these young men to come by and pick up your paper, raise your hand. They will come around and pick it up. We all need to be part of the success of this organization and the rebuilding of our country. And don't leave, we're not done yet. But this is the most important part of the evening. There, I got, right here, right there, the middle table here. I got one over here. Oh, you can find it? So maybe we won't see the video right now, but don't forget, one of the major projects of Doctors Against Genocide is the rebuilding of the Ramadan Iftar Hospital in Gaza. Raise your hand if you still need them to come by and pick up one of your papers. Okay, as I get ready to hand it back off, I want to do something that I do at all of our events when I'm on the stage, which is I know that we love each other and support each other, but I'm not sure that we tell each other enough. So I want you to look at everybody on your table right now and tell them I'm happy to see you tonight. Good. Now I want you to look at everybody on your table and tell them I'm proud of you. Yes, and tell them I love you. Because we are a people full of love, and I'll tell you, when I go to Palestine, everyone there is full of love. And this organization is based on love and the love of our people and the love of justice. So make sure you keep filling out these forms here tonight, and we all have to be part of the rebuilding of our people. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you all very much for all you're doing tonight. I'm not a while, I think it's impressive. Work. Okay. I'm going to For some reason, evaluating isn't working. We'll try and take it again a little bit and figure it out. Like I said, I'm Dr. Ramadan Iftar from University of Michigan. Okay, so I get the privilege to introduce our next guest. Before I do so, the Ramadan Hospital is one project that has in store in Gaza and elsewhere. There's food, medical supplies, medical points, medications, mobile home care team, another student graduation, ambulances, Muslim academies. We also have projects in Sudan and Congo as well. I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Adam Thomas. Muslim Lebanese American, married to the most important wife, and he's the father of 3 most beautiful children. His words, not mine, I can argue born and raised in the Detroit area, he then completed undergraduate education at University of Michigan, Dearborn, and medical school in Westland, Michigan. He completed orthopedic residency at Michigan Ramadan Hospital in Royal Oak, followed by a trauma fellowship at the University of Missouri. He now serves as the Greater Detroit area as an orthopedic surgeon, time outside the hospital and spent with his family and friends. Dr. Voss.
So for those of you that have heard me speak before in the past, you know how I appreciate very graphic images from my time spent in Gaza. And I don't do that for shock value, but because the truth in Gaza is very graphic. But tonight, in the spirit of Ramadan, we can spare you those images. But without them at this point, what's really left to say? We're now more than 2 years into the most televised genocide and massacre in history. And we're living in real time. It's on our phones, we're scrolling past it, and we're living through it. Day after day, Palestinian families continue to be murdered, and at this point, entire bloodlines of families and generations have been left off from the face of history. And we've heard these statistics again and again, and maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe we hear them so much that we've now almost become numb to it. So tonight, I just want to pause and try to put a few of these numbers into perspective for us. Conservative estimates now report that there are over 20,000 children that have been murdered in 2 years. That's the equivalent of an entire classroom of children being killed every single day for more than 2 years in a row. If you were to place one murdered child per seat in Little Caesars Arena would literally be overflowing with the bodies of dead children. And what about the children that survived? There are 50,000 children that have been injured, burned, crushed, dismembered, traumatized. 50,000 innocent lives. 50,000 small, beautiful bodies that have been forever changed. Think about Ford Field Stadium. You could almost fit every seat in a football stadium with an injured child from the suicide. As an orthopedic trauma surgeon, when I spent my time in Gaza, I didn't just read these numbers, I saw them in real time. I witnessed the genocide, I saw the mangled bodies. The illegal and immoral blockade by Israel of Gaza strangled the medical system completely. We didn't have the supplies that we needed to take care of the mass casualty events. We didn't have the tools or the supplies that we needed to save patients' arms and legs. And so we amputated, and we amputated, and we amputated. Now the most recent report is that there are over 6,000 amputees in Gaza. 6,000 amputees, 1,500 of them being children. And many of these patients are double or triple amputees, which means they've lost more than one arm or leg. This is 6,000 people that have been permanently disabled and debilitated in a place like Gaza with minimal access to rehab, minimal access to prosthetics. Therefore, they're unable to recover and move on with their lives after this. I want you to think about these amputees for a moment. How is a father with no legs supposed to leave and go and get food for his family and bring it back? How is a mother without arms supposed to hold her baby and care for her children? These crimes didn't stop at the hospital doors either, as we've seen in the pictures. Hospitals are places that are supposed to be protected sanctuaries of healing, even they became targets of the attacks. 1,700 healthcare workers have been murdered in 2 years. To put that into perspective, if you were to put one murdered healthcare worker in a hospital bed, you could fill up both Henry Ford, Maine, and Corwell Dearborn with just the bodies of dead healthcare workers from Gaza. 1,700 people who took an oath to protect and preserve human life. And yet, despite all this trauma, the doctors, as we've seen, have still stayed in Gaza. Despite the hospitals being bombed, despite their colleagues being neglected and tortured, they still stayed. Despite the over 700 attacks on healthcare facilities, the doctors still stayed. They chose their patients over their own safety. And for this, they gave up their lives. Some of them took their oath so seriously that the white coat they wore to the hospital became their burial shroud of their cover. Tonight, we organize here under the banner of Doctors Against Genocide. And who embodies the spirit more perfectly than Dr. Abu Hussein? We've all seen that historic photo where he's walking out of the hospital through the rubble to go and address the cowards in the tanks. This is one man. This is one doctor with his white coat as his battle guard, armed with his dignity as he goes to address his tyrants. This is healthcare in its essence. This is what it means to truly fight for your patients. This is resistance through medicine. Doctors Against Genocide isn't just a name or a symbol. This is a call to action. This is a responsibility that we all have. So tonight, the question is, how are you going to fulfill your responsibility here? What are you going to do here tonight in the comfort of Detroit? Our outrage for what we're seeing, our grief over all these dead bodies, needs to turn into some sort of action. If you're not willing to go to Gaza now, you at least have to be able to donate to support those that are doing work on the ground now. You have to donate to match the scale of the destruction that we're seeing. You have to donate to match the 20,000 murdered children that won't be able to see their future. You have to match the over 30 hospitals in Gaza that have been burned and bombed. The doctors in Gaza did not leave their patients. and we will never abandon Gaza and Palestine. May God grant victory to the resistance, and inshallah we will see the day of a free Palestine.
One more applause for Dr. Adam Fox. Dr. Adam was the first doctor of the United States to go on the first mission in Gaza in December 2023. We are proud of him. We are honored to be his colleagues and his friends, and I think all Michigans should be proud of Dr. Adam. Thank you.
So that we can hear from Dr. Farashid Silvani, who is a board-certified physician specializing in internal medicine with a master's degree in public health. Her medical degree from Michigan State University College of Osteopathic Medicine, and her internal medicine residency training was in MSU's biohealth system. She currently works as an acute care hospitalist in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and is also an assistant clinical professor at the College of Medicine at Michigan State University. She also serves as a medical director of Rahma Worldwide ING. She is a humanitarian activist and a global health specialist, and she has participated in numerous medical missions in both conflict zones and areas of natural disaster, including Sudan, Gaza, Syria, Yemen, Iraq, Bangladesh, Kenya, Jordan, Colombia, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and Puerto Rico. Let's hear a big clap for Dr. Farashid, please, and listen to him.
While we're waiting for Dr. Farashid, does anyone have any questions for our colleagues, the doctors who went to Gaza? Anyone has any questions for the doctors who just came back from Gaza?
Or went to Gaza first.
Any questions, guys? No? Muhammad, can you tell us exactly? Come back. Both of you. So what's the difference between the time he went, the first one, and the last time you were there?
So, the first time when Dr. Adam went, This was when I think the genocide was in its most acute phase, when we were seeing the highest number of traumas. So when we would be working at the Baptist Hospital where Dr. Adam was working, regularly, you would hear an alarm go off in the ED and 60, 70 people would show up, and everybody in the hospital would come down to the emergency room and try and treat and manage that. This time, there is still trauma happening every day. There's still approximately 20-ish, 20, 30 people every day were getting killed by bombing. However, now that the healthcare infrastructure has been destroyed, the environmental infrastructure has been destroyed, sewage systems, water treatment plants, all of that has been destroyed. Now, you start to see the deliberate destruction of the base level of life in Gaza, and you start to see the longer-term effects of it in rampant communicable diseases. We saw multiple patients with meningitis, which is a vaccine-preventable illness. We saw patients who were suffering recurrent, non-stop lung infections because they're cooking with firewood, they're living outside in dusty homes. During my time there, we had approximately 6 different children who came in frozen to death in their tents because people are unable to keep them warm. Despite everything that the parents do, their tents will flood, and the babies are small, and they get cold faster.
I do practice in Michigan and acute care hospitalist. I've been to Gaza 3 times. My first time I went to Gaza 6 months before the war started through Paris Caucus, right before Tel-Aviv. And then when Anna was talking about his experience, and he was held, I was held for 3 hours and 40 minutes because my passport did say that I was visiting Iraq the summer before. Second time I went to Gaza, it was during the war, it was March of 2024. I was a team lead and hospital medicine. And then the third time I went, it was June of 2024. January, I tried to go back. I was on my team. I was denied entry with no reason given. And then I tried again in November, just 2 months ago. I was denied again for the second time. I was unable to go. So, just to start, I've been with the Doctors Against Genocide since November 2023. So from the beginning, this was our first Washington. Back in November, we went to the hell. This was in front of the Israeli embassy, and then, of course, like we spent, it was a really cold night, but we were there for about a week. So Gaza, like I talked about, so because I was the team lead and then I took over as medical director, I was basically in charge of planning all the medical missions. So I want to talk about logistics, not about patients, not about, everybody else talking about patients, and we've heard stories before. I want to focus on something that people are not aware of. So these are both of my team, my first team in March, and then my second team in June, during the war, the genocide. So, logistics, so basically doctor selection, how do I select the doctors? You apply, you're a cardiologist, you're pediatricians, you're a surgeon. How do I decide I'll choose you over someone else? Now, there's a lot of background behind that. One, you cannot be Palestinian background, unfortunately. You cannot have a Palestinian ID. Also, if you've been to Lebanon before, if you've been to Iran before. These are the criteria we had to exclude you, not because I wanted to, because those are the requirements. If you apply, you get denied automatically. Then the recommendation comes from the Ministry of Health of Gaza. It comes from the hospital directors. It comes from my own team who are on the ground to give me feedback about, let's say I have an internist there, but then, they don't need them in the next mission. Then we cancel back, and that's how we do the selection. And then we collect the document, the passport, the medical license, etc., and then we send it for security clearance. So unfortunately, Israel is the one that gives us permission to enter and to exit Gaza before the war and even during the war.
unfortunately. So the security clearance, it's a complicated process. There's a full form that you have to fill out. Basically, we submit your name, your father's name, your father's name, your phone numbers, if you have an extra phone number. Believe it or not, they know you have an extra phone number. They will message us and say, this doctor with this passport have a different phone number, we need that phone number. And then there are other things they will message you. Oh, this person's been, for example, he has a second passport. We need his second passport. So it's really funny because they have all the information, but they still expect you to submit this stuff. So once you do all the security clearance, then you send your team. Well, before it was through Rafah, but now through Amman. Then everybody will have to go to Amman. And the night before your entry day, that's when we get approval now. These are the colors: green, red, gray, white, or black. So these are the colors they will send me, and in that form there will be an exit date and entry date. And then the exit date will go through the same process. You need to get a security clearance from the Israeli side to let me have your exit resident. So who actually approved them? There's two stages. CLA which is an army operation based on Gaza, this is the Israeli one, and we also have a COGAT. COGAT is a coordination for the civilian relationship between the NGOs and the territories. So it goes through the CLA, and from then it goes to the COGAT, and COGAT then will say, you can go to Gaza and you cannot go to Gaza. Now, this is what they send me usually. So what does this look like? I actually cut a lot of information in there, so I don't have the doctor's name. So this is for Rahma, for example. It tells me on the top of it the entry day, and I have to have an exit day too. If you see the colors, so the green is you're allowed to enter resident. The white one means like, okay, well, you're not approved and you're not denied either. You just have to stay in Amman and wait for approval. The approval could be tomorrow, it could be next week, it could be never. I had a patient, I had an ophthalmologist. She waited for a month. I mean, her grandmother lives in Amman, and her color was still yellow. I'm sorry, white. She never was approved, nor she was denied. Then she gave up and went back to Germany. Black color means that either you will be moved by them or you change your mind, we email them, and they remove you. Now, the bottom color one is the exit. What does that mean? So let's say you're ready to exit, I have to send information to them from my security coordinator. Then they will have to approve that you're being Gaza. Well, the thing that I noticed was a bit creepy to me is that when we were in Gaza, I would get a message saying, this doctor had a second phone number in Gaza. So I have to message my doctor and ask him, you have a second phone number in Gaza. So someone will take an extra phone with them, right? And those phones will be activated, but they're not their phone. They give this phone to someone else. Once that phone is activated, they guess what? The Israeli, they know that this doctor had a phone, and I have no idea how they figure this out. So we have to figure out what phone number it is in order for me to submit that, in order for them to clear you to exit Gaza. So it's a very complicated process. And then red color means that you're denied to can't go Gaza. Now, all this, to me, we send teams in every 2 weeks. I work with Rahma, we send in 40 medical missions to Gaza in a year and a half, every 2 weeks. And we were blocked as an organization in August 21st last year. Now, imagine if you're in charge of this, every time I send the team in, I just have to think about my team until they're in, until they exit. So, that's Gaza. I would like to talk about Sudan now, unless if anybody has a question about this. Okay. Sudan. I recently went to Sudan in October. Now, the security clearance for Sudan is also complicated. So, to me, it seems like any war zone. Like even when I went to Iraq in 2019, it was also a security clearance process. Syria was the same thing before the liberation. Now, Syria was interesting because we had to get clearance from the Turkish government to enter through the land. Now, in Sudan, So again, you selection the base, doctors based on the need, Ministry of Health tells you what the need is, and then the head of the hospital will tell you. Now, security clearance, again, documents, purpose, they ask you specifically what's the purpose of your medical missions, what state in Sudan that you need to work in, which hospital, and then they recommend, they actually want you to submit every single medication, every single, even if it's vitamin, you have to submit the name, the dosage, how much you pay with you, how much it costs. It was really complicated. Dr. Esty actually was on our list to go to Sudan, but we had to postpone because we could never receive our security clearance on time. And I remember asking her, can you send me every single thing that you have?
The tongue depressor.
Even the tongue depressor that she's saying. How many? So then once you get the security clearance, you have to get a visa. The visa on arrival.
Who you need a security clearance for Sudan?
So I'll get to that. Yeah, I'll get to that in a minute. So it's a war zone, right? So we need to make sure that we're safe inside. They monitor. So we'll get to that in a minute. So once you get a visa, there's two ways to get a visa. One, you can obtain it before you enter, but then you have to go through something called uphold. Uphold is like the HAC, which is the Humanitarian Commissioner Committee that basically works for the Sudanese government. They control all the movement. To me, I think about it like COGAT for Israel. Similar concept. Now, so for the visa, the Ministry of Health can give you visa on arrival. However, you have to pay in two different currencies, American dollars and Sudanese money. And then that's before you enter. Then on arrival, we have to pay again $100 to get it. So basically, it costs about $300 to just get a visa to enter Sudan. Now, who gets the approval? How do you get the approval? So the Federal Ministry of Health has to approve it after I submit all the documents. And then Emergency Care and Ambulance Agency and EMT. All these have to agree and approve the paperwork that I submitted in order for them to let my team go in. Then, how do you get the security clearance? Like I said, the HAC is the is the Humanitarian Aid Commissioner. It controls all the movements inside Sudan. You cannot move from one city to another. You cannot actually move. You cannot even go to a refugee camp or IDP camp or a hospital without the HAC to give you a permission. We actually did one evening. We went to in the afternoon, we went to go play with the kids, 9:15, we took some candy. We got in trouble, and they threatened us, saying, if you do this again, we will not allow you to come to Sudan. So it's funny because I felt like it was really difficult. It's more difficult than getting to Gaza to go to Sudan. So the top priority specialty they need right now in Sudan is vascular, neurosurgery, plastic, pediatrics, orthopedics, oncology, and cardiothoracic. Now in Sudan, you divide it to two areas. You look at it as a safe zone, which we can send our team there, and we also have the conflict zone, which these are the northern Gulf War states. And that's where the genocide is happening basically. Unfortunately, Muslims, genocide against Muslims, which is, it breaks my heart. Breaks my heart a lot to see that. So, these are the areas. Safe zone is the Red Sea, northern state, Khartoum, now it's safe, River Niles, Tesla, and then Jazeera. Those are the safe areas. But the problem with that is getting in there is really complicated. Going from Port Sudan, well, right now they opened the Khartoum airport, which is easier to fly in there, but before that it would take you 16 hours to drive from Port Sudan to Khartoum and then to Jazeera or to Al-Ubayla. Now, these are need also security clearance. Escort will have to be with you from the HAC. And then the other area, they need to set up mobile clinic. Those are the unsafe areas. We're not actually allowed to go to this. But this is how they divide Sudan right now. Safe, zone, and then conflict zone. Okay, Yemen. So I'm just going to briefly talk about Yemen. I just came back from Yemen last week. This was my second time going to Yemen. So these are some pictures. One of my favorite things I do when I go to medical missions is to play with kids. And these kids, they actually, they wait for me. They wait for me by my clinic, like they wait for me outside, so once I'm done, so I can go, they take pictures of me. This particular picture, the one I'm making a heart, all these girls behind me, they're all under age 18. The one with the abaya, those are their teacher, they cannot hear. All of these need cochlear implants. And many of these actually, they don't even have like the study done yet. They don't have an MRI. These are some of the patients that, I mean, imagine if you help them get a cochlear implant. I have physicians who are willing to do the surgery, but it's so expensive. I looked into the microscope that costs $240,000 to just get a microscope into to Yemen to do the surgery. But then you have to look at the, the cochlea, you have to buy them also separately. But before all that, you have to do all these measurements and the MRI and the study. And that costs a lot of money. We did the math, it costs $37,000 to do all the studies before you even implant the cochlea. Then you have to have get to that. I'm excited talking about this topic because I feel like this is something that is fixable, and it's like almost like a selfish idea. If you fix these, young women and men, there's more. So security clearance for Yemen. That was a nightmare to me. I feel like Dr. Asir was also on the list for that mission, who lived that with me every day through our WhatsApp group. So the reason it was a nightmare because the government of Yemen changed. If you guys remember, the Emirati government, exited. So we had a whole new government. All our contact we had before changed. Now we had to establish a whole new contact. It was a very long 6 weeks to get this mission, even like longer actually, right? To do that. So Ministry of Health needs to approve it, sending with the Ministry of Planning. Wizard al-Tahqiq. These two need to approve your security clearance first. Once it's approved, then they will send it to the embassy. The embassy will have to approve it. Then you send your passport, which you have to take a picture of every single page of your passport. And it has to be cleared. You cannot show fingers. It's like they're very picky about those passport picture. Your entire passport needs to be copied. You send it to them, then they will give you a visa. You pay, I think it was like $200 or something. Then you have to either physically take it to the ministry, the embassy, or you can mail it. Because of our mission was cutting it short, we actually asked them to send our visa to Jeddah in Saudi Arabia. And then we fly them a day early, we went to the embassy and they put the visa on our passport. Our team was actually very small because 6 of our surgeons was not able to come because of the security clearance took a long time. You get a single entry for 30 days. There are very limited countries how do you enter Yemen. You can either enter through Jeddah, only on Friday and Saturdays. You can enter from Egypt, only on a Thursday or Friday. You can enter through, I think there was Jordan on Tuesdays. So very limited entry, and you can only fly in through Yemenia. We entered through Jeddah and we exited through Cairo. So I don't know if that makes sense. Yemen is a beautiful, beautiful country. I mean, I want to go back there one day just to do the tour stuff. They have beautiful mountains, beautiful trees, like it's just beautiful, mashallah. So I'm gonna play this video. This is our security escort. So this one car was in front of, so there was a convoy, right? So there's one of them, and one car behind me, and we will be driving in the middle. And they always put me in the middle, one car front me, one back, and then the escort, so there's total 5. I felt special because I felt like a president, be in the middle, Only because I carried an American passport, me and the other doctor. So top priority, the reason I put dentists on the top, because every single patient we had in Yemen needed a dental care. You have no idea. And then also, for those of you who know that Yemen, they use cot. Cot is a stimulant that they put it under their cheek. And a lot of them have dental issues from that. And then they also have, their jaw and this risk of increased cancer from the head and neck position. So these are the specialties we need. The city we visited, we went to Seyoun, Mukalla, Tanis, and Eden. And then the 8th team, we were able to go to, not that I was not able to go because I didn't have the security clearance to go to that part because they were too close to the Houthis. And unfortunately, we were unable to go to the Houthi area, which is I really wanted to go, but they did not approve me because again, American passport. So the need right now is dental care, clinic, cleaning medication, supplies, capacity building, all these things. And then again, cochlea implant. More than 200 cases that I actually identified. All of them under age 18. And then 33 only out of these have over test done. And then these are some pictures. And I want to just play one video because everybody's always asking me, why do I do what I do? I'm going to play this video. I just want you to hear this video. I will post my email and my Instagram contact information to anybody who's interested in medical missions, so they need to know how to get involved. Please reach out to me, and inshallah we will be able to help. Yes, I did cover my hair when I was in Yemen because otherwise I would have been the only woman who does not cover her hair. So I got a lot of messages asking me that I don't know if you did. Inshallah one day. Okay, never mind, it's not working. It was just the kids laughing. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Farshid. We're proud of you. Dr. Farshid did more mission than all of us. And, I know not too many people left here, but we really thank everyone. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your support. There is one more thing I want everyone to leave with. We have a message. We have a message from doctors in North Gaza, Kamal Ramadan Hospital, Dr. Hussein Sophia Hospital. They are pleading with us. They want to reopen this hospital. It's the only hospital that we can make it functional in the north of Gaza. There is no functioning hospital in the whole north of Gaza. People came back, but there's no hospital for them. We have a video. This is the new acting director of the hospital, Dr. Sakhar Hamad. He is taking the role, directing the hospital until Dr. Hassan Al-Safiyya, inshallah, will be released from jail. They have a call for us to fund $250,000 to build the emergency room of the pediatric and the OBGYN department. The radiology there, they can do all of this for $250,000. We were meeting with them yesterday, and that's the appeal from them. Think about it. You don't need to do it now if you were not planning to, but please, if you can, donate. If not, think about it and talk to a lot of your friends, to your circles. This is really very important. Can you run this video? This is the hospital itself. This is how the hospital is now. We need to rebuild that. Our brother, Faris Afani, is the head of the EMS system of North Gaza. He and Dr. Sandra are trying their best to rebuild the hospital. We're going to start with the emergency room, mostly for pediatrics of GM and general ER. This is the hospital that Dr. Hussein and his video are coming from. I think it is upon us that the least we can do to honor their memory, their sacrifice, is to rebuild the hospital that they sacrificed everything for, and hopefully we can make it functional by the time they are released from bloodshed. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Free Palestine. Free Palestine. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
I am so proud of you.
خلصتوا؟ دول ما خططهمش كتير كبار ها؟ طب شو بدهم يسووا فيهم؟ مين؟
There's something on this one. This is good. Coconut powder. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.